Hello, welcome to Brickwall Unplugged. I'm Sam, that's Gray. We just watched The Substance. We're going to have a little conversation about it, and you can feel free to eavesdrop on it if you feel like it, you creep. We'll keep this conversation spoiler-free for now. We'll get into spoilers later on, but we'll give you ample warning before we actually get into spoilers. So for now, spoiler-free. If you haven't seen it yet, don't worry.
This is The Substance.
What did you think that it was going to be when we went to go see it? Because I know I only saw part of the advertising, but I don't think you saw any of it.
The only thing I saw was you showed me a little, it wasn't even a trailer, like a little promo thing.
Yeah.
On Instagram, I think it was. You sent it to me. It was it was like to order the Substance kit. It was like a little promo video, yeah. That was the only thing I saw for it.
Right. Yeah, and when I saw that, it had a number that you could call or text, and I only texted it. And I should have done more with it, because when I texted it only sent me like a promo for the movie and stuff like that. So it wasn't very immersive with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe if I called it, maybe something would have happened. But their advertising for that was really, really effective.
Yeah.
Because I kept seeing it on Instagram, and then I think TikTok, maybe Twitter. But every time it would come up, it would be all about, it wouldn't say anything about the actual plot around it. It would just be advertising the substance.
Yeah, that's a cool way to do it.
It was very cool. I love that approach to it.
Oh,
It was really fun. Yeah.
Whoever did the marketing for this, it feels like this and Long Legs are the two movies this year that feel like they could be tiny little niche movies, but broke through to it kind of remains to be seen for The Substance since it just came out.
Yeah.
But it's got a much wider release than a weird ass movie like this usually gets.
Yeah.
It was playing in this little theater that usually only plays Deadpool and whatever Marvel movies are playing. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this was there, they didn't even have Long Legs in that theater until way later on.
Yeah, they didn't. That's right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to see weird, more avant-garde, more niche movies getting wide theatrical releases, because that's important.
Absolutely.
That should always be happening.
And that was the one thing I kept thinking about when we were watching it was how am I seeing this at a theater?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because people were already, the one thing I would keep seeing while I was trying to prevent myself from seeing much about it, every time I would see the tiniest bit of a review, it was always, this is really gross.
Yeah.
And that was it. I'm trying to think of anything I've seen in a theater that's been as gross. I can't really think. Maybe
It is pretty gross.
Yeah, what was that movie Eli Roth did? Was it The Green Inferno?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Closest Cannibal.
That was gross as fuck.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Crimes of the Future was pretty gross.
Yeah, I missed
Speaking of Cronenberg, because Cronenberg's obviously going to come up in any discussion of this movie, but lots of other people too. I wouldn't quite say that this is it feels less Cronenberg first and foremost than something like Titan or whatever. That feels very Cronenberg, right? In your face Cronenberg.
Absolutely.
This feels like shades of Cronenberg, some shades of David Lynch.
I was gonna mention,
There's a lot of Lynch in here, in the little moments,
tiny,
were you feeling it in the shots of the palm trees?
Absolutely.
And the road at night.
Yeah, and then there was that one shot which I won't get too detailed, but it starts out with there's a lot of just negative space. Kind of reminded me also of Under the Skin.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Under the Skin. Yeah.
And it was so
the white
cool.
void of it all.
Yeah, that and just when it was dark, and then there was that one shot where it had the subject matter, all the negative space, but it just kept shrinking.
Yeah.
So it was that. That was crazy. That felt a little Lynchian for some reason.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And then there's another shot that was, it's when Demi Moore's on the phone. And it's the red phone, and the way she's lit with the shadowy top half and all that. That's a straight up David Lynch shot.
It is, and then some of even the transition shots, with the cross, what's it called? It's the crossfade kind of deal, double exposure.
Oh yeah.
There was one with the palm tree thing.
Yeah.
It was oh, come on now. That feels very much like it belongs in a Lynch movie.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Even that, visual effect they did when, the drug was first taking hold, where it was, they were, speed ramping and doing weird stuff like that.
Yeah,
that felt straight out of, when Cooper's leaving the Black Lodge and The Return.
I didn't even think
The way
about that yet.
Yeah. It felt straight out of that.
It did. Yeah, the editing in this movie was so... It felt like the editing and the cinematography were very, like, with each thing, it felt very inspired.
Yeah.
Which was really cool to see, because, I don't know, a lot of stuff I go see now, I'm sure you can relate, where it's like, a lot of it just doesn't feel like they're thinking much about, like, the tinier moments. But
like they're on autopilot.
Yeah, autopilot. And with this one, it was like, even the tiniest moments, the shots felt like they put so much thought into it. Yeah.
Lots of, like,
Very
really
cool.
brief shots, too, that clearly had a lot of effort put into them for just, like, a quick moment.
Right.
It's a very fast-paced edit.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do want to emphasize that, like, we just brought up a lot of comparisons to Cronenberg and Lynch and all that in Under the Skin, but this movie has, like, such a unique voice at the same time.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like it's, like, homaging those things, and, like, you can see the influences, but not in an overbearing way, not in a, like, lazy way, not in, like, a rip-off kind of way.
Exactly.
Yeah, because, like, alongside all those, like, references and homages and, like, stylistic influences, there's such a unique style, too. Like, a lot of it's, like extreme close-ups.
Yeah.
Like, early on when Dennis Quaid first enters and he goes, like, right up to the camera. Like, his face is right up in there. Let's talk about Dennis Quaid for a second.
Okay, yeah, no. Every time he would show up, I would always notice we'd both start laughing.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
He was so funny in this. And Dennis Quaid is an actor who, like, he's been around forever. He's never been this good. This is his best performance, like,
That's
by far.
interesting.
He is going so far over the top in this role.
He was.
Like, I want to say that, like, he got the tone, but I feel like he, like, sets the tone.
That's a good point. Yeah, I feel like he does. Because he makes it so absurd. It just feels so disorienting all the time, and then he makes it feel like you're on crack or something.
Yeah.
Like he's just a total crackpot.
He's like
great.
he's like an alternate reality, like hyper magnified version of the, like, Hollywood sleazeball archetype. He's like that, like, cliche ramped up to, like, a height you've never seen before. He's so over the top, and it's so fun.
And it's kind of, he makes it like, if he wasn't so funny, it's like slightly uncomfortable the way he is. Yeah, it's like those situations where he's, because they're handling that subject of how women are seen in the industry and whatever, and their age and how they get seen as lesser than the more they age, and he just takes what anyone would be experiencing in that circumstance and just makes it so much more, like, in your face. And it's so fun and also very scary in a funny way.
Yeah, he makes it comical. I could see some people watching this and thinking he's, like, too cartoonish or whatever.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, fair if it takes you out of the movie, but I think he just, like, really nails the tone. Because the movie embraces that over-the-top, like wackiness of it. Like, you're probably going to see this marketed mostly as a horror movie, but we both walked out calling it, like, it's a comedy, like, first and foremost. It's definitely, there's a lot of horror in here. There's a lot of gross shit, a lot of body horror, and that's all really good too. But it's hilarious, like, from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's got a really great opening shot where it's, like, sets up, like, one of the themes of the movie right away, where it's, like, the Hollywood star, like, from its very construction to,
so good.
like, its deterioration over the years. They showed it snowing in LA, which doesn't happen.
I was going to mention
that was a weird little transition. I mean, it snowed in LA, like, one time.
Maybe it was the one time.
I guess so. I guess it was within that window, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe so.
But it was already funny, and it already set up the over-the-top tone when the guy, like, drops the, like, ketchup-y hamburger on the star. Like, it's already setting up, like, okay, it's a movie about Hollywood and celebrity and fading celebrity in particular, and it's going to have a really, like, gratuitous, over-the-top sense of humor. It's all in that, like, one image right there.
Yeah.
Really great way to open the movie.
Absolutely.
The main character's like a fading star, so the substance is a drug that is, like, a way to recapture her youth. That's, like, one of the main themes of the movie is this, like, youth thing, and specifically, like, aging in the context of show business, in the context of Hollywood, where it's this hyper, like, cosmetic industry. Everything's very, like, surface level. The substance, I think you could read pretty clearly as far as, like, any kind of, like, Botox, cosmetic surgery, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then on a more, like, emotional level, it's just, like, the like, fears of people aging out of their profession, and also the desire to hold on to that like by any means possible.
Yeah.
It's not like a subtle movie.
It's not.
It's very upfront and in your face, and it knows that and it embraces that. And like it has its themes, which are good themes. They're effective. That's very effectively explored in that Cronenberg-y kind of way. Like he's one of the best at injecting like social commentary into the direct concept of the horror. Like The Fly is a good parallel for this.
Yeah,
with like
very
the
good.
body, like they both lose their ear at one point.
They do, yeah.
Stuff like that.
It's also very specific to like the feminine experience in Hollywood, because I know that like most men, it seems like in Hollywood, like aging doesn't seem to affect them as much.
It doesn't, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like not at all.
It doesn't
It's-
seem like
it's
it.
very much a double standard in the industry. Yeah.
It is, because then it's like you look at the older actors and stuff in the business, and it's like, I don't know. I just see so many older men where it's like it doesn't matter if they're attractive or not, they're just there and you just take them for what they are and who they are and how good their performance is. But with women, it's like I don't think I've ever seen much attention on older women, especially older women that are not conventionally attractive in Hollywood. It's just not non-existent.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like very few roles,
Yeah, very few.
and it's not that way for like men of that same age.
No,
Not at all. Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter how old they get, they still keep kicking. But then so many actresses, they just kind of disappear one day, and
Yeah.
everyone goes like, "Oh, they just started looking a bit rough, and they started getting to that age." And it's like, okay, I don't know. That feels pretty scummy.
It is, yeah. No, it
Yeah.
absolutely is. And I think that's probably something that Demi Moore herself has dealt with, the star of this movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I will say, I've seen her in a few movies, and she never really like left any impression.
Mhm.
She was really good in this.
She was.
She was great casting, and she really went for it. There's no like holding back. And she never really like impressed me in much. I haven't seen some of her like big, like I never saw G.I. Jane, which is one of her biggest things.
Yeah.
That's the. I can't think of that movie now without thinking of the Will Smith
I
slap.
know. Yeah, that's exactly what came to my head.
Yeah.
G.I. Jane.
That was kind of how I felt about Margaret Qualley. I keep wondering if I'm saying her name right.
I think that's how you say it.
Margaret Qualley. Because for so long, every time I saw her in something, I felt so indifferent about her because it felt like she was just posing
Oh,
to
okay.
me. Yeah, especially because in both Poor Things and then there's another movie she popped up in.
Was it that Drive Away Dolls one?
No, I'm thinking of like because that one, like I was thinking of the ones where she doesn't have much dialogue. She's like being very quiet and just in the background a lot. But with Drive Away Dolls, that one, she talks too much with that bad Southern accent. I will never forgive her for that. Like that felt like an insult to being a Southerner. I just couldn't do it in some way, even though I can't entirely forgive her for the Southern accent. I kind of in a way do. Like now I can say I'm a fan of her.
I've really
So
liked her
good.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Actually. I didn't see Drive Away Dolls in particular, but everything else I've seen her in, everything I have seen her in, I thought she was really good.
Yeah, because this movie worked with that quality of hers that at first I just wasn't a fan of her just feeling like a model kind of actress where it just feels like she's there because she's very pretty and she knows how to look for a lot of things and just makes it look effortless. But with this one, they really play into that.
Yeah,
With-
well cast, and like
Yeah.
she definitely, her and Demi Moore, they both like know exactly what the role is asking of them,
Yeah.
and they both like fully deliver on it.
Yeah.
I was wondering if the movie is going to get any backlash from people like misinterpreting the themes and calling it like misogynistic or exploitative or whatever,
Right.
even though it's a woman who directed it. I feel like they might not, they might
Yeah.
not pay that. It seems like the kind of movie where people will like completely miss the point and just like get mad at it. They'll like
the
tie themselves.
opposite reason
Yeah, for the
too,
opposite reason.
for
Yeah,
what
exactly.
it is. Like, yeah. That's
Yeah.
been a thing happening a lot more.
It happens so often because,
Yeah.
like we were talking about before, there's like no media literacy now.
There really is. It's just like people will see something, and it's like with this one, it feels like it couldn't be more in your face. But
Yeah.
because of that, it also risks people just taking it for something else. They just see parts of like what it's showing.
Yeah.
It's very strange, very selective kind of analysis that they're doing. And it's like, because it's focusing on the exploitation of women, they're going to be like, oh, they are doing exploitation of women.
It's that thing where, like,
yeah.
if a movie doesn't, like, hold the viewer's hand and say, oh, we're showing something bad right now.
Yeah.
People will go, oh, the movie's endorsing this. Like, that happens so often.
It is. It happened with Kinds of Kindness, with that, especially that last...
And Poor Things.
Yeah, and Poor Things.
Yeah.
Very
Yorgos got it twice in a row.
interesting.
Yep.
Also with Margaret Qualley in
Yeah.
both of them. But yeah, with Poor Things, it was constantly like just saying that the way they treated it was very just pedophilic. Just with the way that, like, you know, he takes a
Yeah.
young brain.
Yeah,
puts
yeah.
it
It's
in-
like an infantilized thing in an adult body. It's
Yeah.
like missing the point and getting mad about the point.
Yeah.
But now that it's like got its theatrical release, like we just got back from the theater and there was some old man who fell asleep like 2 seats over. He was snoring. He was snoring his ass
That was
off.
the loudest snores I've ever heard
Yeah.
in a theater. And I was so close to throwing something at him. I was so
Yeah.
close, and then I was just like hitting something to like
Yeah.
cause noise to make him wake up.
He was snoring loud enough to drown out the movie theater audio.
He
That's how
was.
loud this guy was snoring.
He was,
And it was like 20 minutes in. It wasn't even like far in. And it was like 6 p.m. or something. It wasn't.
Yeah.
He had no excuse.
And then once he finally woke up, he noticed what he was in there to see, and he was like, "Oh no!" And then he left. He never came.
I'm Sue. 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 Sue.
You're hired.
Let's go.
I want to talk a little bit more about the performances. We talked about those main ones because it really is like those three:
Yeah.
Margaret Qualley, Demi Moore, and then Dennis Quaid. Weirdly
Yeah.
enough, and I think it's like career best for Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid. But I wanted to say, it seemed like, and I'm sure this is intentional. It seemed like every like man in the movie gave like a really bad performance, but like in an intentional way.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like all the like little like the neighbor, like the guy in the restaurant, like all the little one-off male performances, they were all like terrible.
They were so. It's hard to like talk about without laughing.
Yeah.
It's like the way they would talk, it just felt like they were just saying, like they would take the line and just say it, like with it was like an afterthought to them.
Yeah.
And they would just say it with such a strange tone where it was like they did not care whatsoever, but it made it so good.
Yeah, it's just like part of the vibe.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that seems like a flaw, but it just kind of fits.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly intentional, I think.
It has to be.
Yeah.
There's no way, because it was just so consistent. And then, like, the more they would focus on male characters, and there's one part where there's, like, a big group of guys together.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple, but, like, there's the main one. And they all have that same energy.
There's another group. I don't know if you're talking about this group or a different one, but and they all look like the same guy.
Yes, that's the one.
They're all like the same like flavor of old white guy.
Yeah, bald.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the one in the background who's like running around like this with his arms like a little marionette or whatever.
It was so ridiculous, but it kind of it gave me the same vibe of like that older movie Metropolis, where they have those shots. It's like a collage deal where it's all those eyes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It felt like that because they're all just like staring, and it's like, oh, they all feel the same, and they're all staring right at me, and like it's so uneasy.
It's fitting with like the tone of the movie. They're like intentionally over the top, like sort of skewed, like unreality of it, like those intentionally bad performances.
Yeah.
I really liked the way that the like fictional version of Hollywood was presented in this, where like nothing had like any proper like branding. Did you notice that? Like
you're right.
the show like had a name, but it was very much like pump it up or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then every other show that they mentioned, like they just called it like the morning show.
You're right.
And then the New Year's Eve show was just the New Year's Eve show. The TV network was the network.
Yeah.
When she went on that other talk show to promote it, the guy's cards just said the show. It wasn't even like the
noticed
late
that.
show. It was just the show.
That's hilarious.
That's another one of those like unreality intentional, like really stripped back in an interesting kind of way.
Yeah.
Nice little detail. I like that.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's not something that registered with me like completely, but I still felt it.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think it's one of those like
there's-
subconscious things that just builds to like the overall feel of the like world of the movie.
Yeah, because it all feels so detached from reality.
Yeah.
So like if they did label any of that more than they already did of just calling it just bare minimum what it was, it would have made it feel more based in reality. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, feels like a very simple but big choice to make.
Yeah, and I think having that separation supports the, because it's clearly like commenting on real Hollywood, but it's not making any effort to be set in real Hollywood.
Right.
So having that separation, I think, helps. One, like the social commentary. I think it helps the social commentary not clash with this really over-the-top, exaggerated tone.
Right.
It helps like blend those two together by drawing that separation like very clearly, intentionally.
Yeah, the horror.
Yeah, okay. So we'll talk about the
Yeah.
horror stuff a little bit. The gore is so well done.
It's so good.
And it really is like gross, like all those reviews are
Disgusting.
saying. Yeah, in like a great way, but it never stops being funny. Is the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say it ever got like creepy or disturbing or anything. I don't think it's really going for that. It does get like really like uncomfortable, like really grotesque,
Yeah.
in that like kind of gross out way. But it stays funny throughout at the same time.
It does. It makes
Yeah.
it bearable because I kept like I would keep feeling like I was gonna gasp or something.
Yeah.
Like I could feel like my jaw starting to drop of like, are they actually gonna show
Right.
that? And they do, but it's in such a way where it's still laughable enough where you don't have to force it, or not force, but like you don't have to look away or anything.
Yeah.
Like you can still watch everything happen even though it's so grotesque.
Yeah.
Which is really fun.
Yeah, because they bring it so far over the top that it just becomes funny.
Yeah.
Like so exaggerated, like
So exaggerated, surreal.
like there's this one shot. It's not even a gore shot, but there's this shot where Demi Moore's like cooking in her kitchen, and she's just like beating eggs, and there's just egg yolk flying everywhere. It's so over the top. It's
my
like
God.
splattering all over her face. It's so fucking funny.
That reminds me too of something I wanted to bring up is the food.
Yeah.
The food is disgusting.
Yeah, the food
It's
is gnarly in
gross.
this movie.
And the sound design for it.
I was gonna talk about the sound design.
Yeah.
Right
it's
away too.
textural with everything.
Yeah, from the first food scene is Dennis Quaid going to town on some shrimp,
Yeah.
and it's so gross.
For something new, it's inevitable. At 50, well, it stops.
And yeah, every time there's food in this movie, it's gross.
Oh yeah.
It's disgusting. I
Lots
didn't
of
like
extreme close-ups of food, and then yeah, like you said, the sound design.
Yeah.
They really push it. That food scene's the first time you like really notice it because they like every little mouth noise, every like sound, the sound of the dip and everything. It's so like heightened. Like it still sounds real, but like too loud and present to be
Yeah.
real. Like really magnified, and then that carries over into the gore sounds too. Just, yeah,
Absolutely.
excellent sound design.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's that feeling you get when you're overstimulated somewhere, where like your brain forces you to only hear sounds that you don't like. So it amplifies everything. Just like, if you hear someone scrape their fork against a plate, it sounds unbearable. But like if you're like right there, so everything felt like it was just so close to you.
Yeah.
And it was so unbearable, but it was also really fucking funny at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, I kept focusing so much on that sound design because it added so much texture to it.
Oh yeah.
And it was so good.
And then that paired with really good soundtrack too.
Yes.
The whole like audio side of this movie is like impeccable.
It's so good. The deep bass of that, like that one sound or like track that they were using to amplify certain moments where it would just sometimes, most of the time, come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny when it happened.
Yeah,
because it
it
was. It was so good, but it was also like hypnotizing.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to keep hearing it.
Totally.
And even in like the end credits when they switch to a different song that's completely like a different tone, it's like bring back the cool shit. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to own that on vinyl if they ever put that out.
But I wanted to also just highlight the production design. I thought it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
So
And the special effects work. We already kind of said the gore looks great.
Yeah.
But yeah, really great, really impressive, like, transformation stuff, like this body horror stuff in there is very, very well done. Cronenberg would be proud.
Yes, he would. Oh my
On that side of
god,
things,
it's
yeah.
so great. Like the way that just like skin and flesh, they like
Yeah.
split open and things are coming out of it. It's just so gross.
Oh, yeah.
Like I got worried that at a certain point it would start to feel too fake or too clean. But at no point did I go, oh, this doesn't look good. I would just be focused on how gross I felt.
Oh, yeah. And they kept pushing
Yeah.
it, like, further and further and further, and it kept feeling like, this was, like, almost a problem, but not quite. The movie definitely felt like it was ending to me, like, way before it actually ended.
Yeah, it could have ended like maybe 4 separate times.
Yeah, I felt the exact same. We'll talk a little bit more about that specifically in the spoiler section, but yeah, it definitely has that like Return of the King thing where it feels like it's ending for like a very long time.
Yeah.
But I ended up just really liking. I ended up appreciating that it's like, oh, they just kept pushing it further and
Yeah.
further and further. Ends up being a good thing. It's like, oh, a lesser movie would have ended here. They pushed it a whole lot fucking
Yeah,
further in like every way, like in a story level, on a character level, and on a just gore level, like creatively grotesque.
Absolutely. Like so many movies would have ended because a lot of movies just don't want to push it further
Yeah.
and further. But they just, I would start to feel a tiny bit frustrated over how long it started to feel
Yeah,
when
me
it was.
too.
Yeah, it's like that kind of instinct when you think something's ending and then it keeps going.
It makes
like,
it makes the whole thing feel a lot longer.
Yeah.
I will say that that's the kind of thing that on like a second watch, when you know where it actually ends,
Yeah.
that usually doesn't like hamper a second viewing. But on
Absolutely.
the first watch, it did definitely feel like it was getting a little long.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then it definitely just paid off.
Oh
because
yeah,
just
it stuck the landing.
Yeah.
It justified that extra runtime.
It absolutely did. Yeah, every other time this year, especially when a movie has made me feel like that, you usually have ended up feeling very disappointed in what it turns out to be. But this one knew exactly like what direction to keep pushing it in, to where when you realize it's not ending, you're like, oh, thank God. Like,
Yeah.
thank God they're going.
Right.
Like, I wanted to see this.
Yeah.
This is great.
I didn't know I wanted to see it, but I
Right.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I did the whole time. I just didn't know it, but they knew.
And then, like, even outside the gore, excellent production design. Like, just the look of her apartment, the look of that one
Yeah.
hallway that they returned to a few
Oh, it was
times.
so good. The Shining
The-
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Shining-esque one. And the look of, like, her bathroom with the stark white tiles, the one that
Yeah.
reminded us both of Under the Skin a little bit.
Yeah.
Stuff like that were just great. Oh, and, of course, the Substance kit itself.
Yes.
Loved how detailed that was with the steps. One
Right.
thing that I do think that felt like a little bit of, like, a studio meddling thing was they kept, like, flashing back to remind us of things.
Oh.
And I feel like it's a case of where, like, at least they did it stylishly, at least. But it did feel like the kind of thing where you could trust the audience a little more to just remember what happened. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we didn't need a flashback. And then especially the one part where there's a character that you recognize from, like, a birthmark on his hand.
Yeah, and they had to really
Yeah.
show us a flashback for that.
They made it clear, like, they made it clear right away who this guy was. And then they showed, like, 2 extra flashbacks.
Yeah, that was so
It was
pointless.
very unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then they had dialogue that also spelled it out, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, you can trust the audience a little bit more than that, but that's a very small gripe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move into the spoilery section. Do you think so? Do you have any
I
other
think
notes?
so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick wrap up for the spoiler-free section. Big recommendation. I think this might be my favorite movie from this year. that I've
Really?
seen so far. I think so. Was
Yeah.
Kinds of Kindness this year? Or was it,
It
the end of
was.
last year?
Yeah, yeah. It was
Okay,
this
so that's
year.
up there too. It edges out Long Legs for me.
Yeah, I guess.
And I love
yeah.
Long Legs, but this edged it out for me with just
Yeah.
how far it pushed things.
That's fair. I feel like it's up there. I think the only other one I can think of that you didn't mention is Civil War.
Yeah,
really
I
like.
think I would go with this over Civil War, but Civil War is really
yeah.
good.
Oh, that's a big recommendation.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's like I always say, I love when a movie or a book or any kind of story can show me something that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
This movie had a lot of that. That's like one of the highest points of praise I can give is when it shows me something completely original,
Yeah.
like really surprises me.
Yeah.
And this movie had quite a few moments. There's a lot of stuff in here you've never seen before. And that gets a big old recommendation from me.
Yeah, because even though I wouldn't say it's my favorite of the year, it is up there. Because also I have never seen anything like that ever. And yeah, if it's not my favorite, it's in top 3 easily.
Okay, so we're going to move into spoilers now. If you haven't seen The Substance yet, go do it and then come back or not. I don't really, whatever. But yeah, okay, spoiler time. I feel like we covered a lot already. So,
We did.
But I did want to make sure we talked about the ending thing.
Yes.
So for me, I think it's probably the same for you. The first ending, it felt like it was ending when the Margaret Qualley's killing the other one.
Yeah.
Right? Was that the first
Just
ending for you too?
bludgeoning the fuck out of her.
And that's one scene that I feel like that scene itself should have ended a little earlier. Because the bashing her face into the mirror is so perfect thematically.
It was.
Like her own reflection. I feel like that's where the scene should have ended. I don't think they should have gone back down the hallway and then the whole kicking with the table and all that. That felt like that didn't add anything that didn't already happen in the bathroom section.
You do have
to
a
me.
point, because I think I do disagree with you a little bit, because I thought the gratuity of it and how overdone it was, it added something for me. I don't know quite. I want to say it's just because of that the character's internalized hatred of aging, where it's just it kept going and going, where it was you thought it would have ended, but she's just so fucking mad about it that she just keeps beating her to death, and it's insane. But you are right, the mirror thing, it's such perfect symbolism and imagery and everything.
I think it would have worked for me if they just made the mirror thing the last beat. Right? Keep everything else, just kind of rearrange it a little bit, because the mirror is that's the whole point right there.
Yeah.
Once you do
Right.
that, it feels to me like that's the end of the scene. So it felt like it was ending there, and then it kept going. And there's a lot after that.
There's
so much. And it felt like that was the first ending.
Yeah.
And then, there were a couple other times, the whole stage sequence. Because they play that song, and that feels like a big climax and
It
everything.
does.
And then it just keeps going after
It
that.
just keeps on going. It all felt like this big fever dream that you just couldn't wake up from. It just you feel like you're about to wake up, and then it just keeps getting more absurd.
Oh, and then I kind of had this out of order, but it also felt like it was ending when that crazy creature came out of Margaret Qualley's back.
Yes.
I thought it could have just that thing looks in the mirror, you hold on it for a second, cut to black. That could be the ending.
Yeah, that could have worked too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm glad they kept pushing it, because I was laughing so fucking hard when that creature was putting on earrings and doing the hair curler or whatever, the straightener or whatever it was.
I love that she just gave up when it snapped her hair off. She was just all right, whatever.
The little mask with the lipstick on it. It's so fucking funny.
And the way that there kept being body parts that were growing out from whatever crevice, it was reminding me of Alex Garland's Men, where they keeps giving birth to himself. There's so many movies that keep reminding me of that one. Love Flies Bleeding did that similar thing of that one shot on the stage where there's this thing happening. It was just so gross. The body parts that were coming out, her boob.
Yeah.
Just the way
out
it
of
came
the
out
eye
of the
socket
thing.
or whatever. That was so good.
That's
one of those things. Never fucking seen that
Yeah, I've
before.
never seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never have I seen a boob. Just it became its
In
own.
isolation, with
Yeah.
a little umbilical cord or whatever.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
That was so
This is
disgusting.
gross. Yeah.
It was so gross. And the way that when she was first going out as that creature, and everyone was we're so happy to see you. It just felt so fucking...
Yeah.
It was so good, because you're automatically expecting everyone to react in horror.
Yeah.
And then they don't do it yet, but then when they do react in horror, it's so funny.
It's so funny. It's so over the top.
Didn't someone say to like get the guns and stuff?
Yeah, they said shoot the monster. That's the thing. This movie is so funny.
It's. Oh my god, I couldn't stop laughing. I still can't. The little
They
zoom.
did so much of it. Oh, I loved that zoom. They went full 70s whip zoom.
They did.
I love a good 70s whip zoom whenever it shows up in something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So underutilized in like modern filmmaking.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
Like that was perfect. Just each time someone like they would stand up by themselves.
Yeah. One by one, stand up and scream like they just noticed. Oh,
They didn't notice before
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
They didn't know.
They were waiting their turn to scream and get the little spotlight.
That's so amazing. Oh my god. Yeah, just because each time it happens, it's like it can't get any funnier, and then it does.
Yeah.
They just keep taking it up a notch.
Yeah.
And
And then there's a little girl in the audience there, they're like covering her eyes way too late. Also in that scene, the like blood fountain spraying over the crowd.
Oh my god,
I
the
loved
like,
that.
Japanese horror
Yeah,
kind of
we
blood
talked about it as we were
spray.
walking out of the theater, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that outside of Japanese horror.
Yeah.
Which reminded me of like Takeshi Miike's movies.
Yeah.
Or Takashi Miike's movies.
Yeah. Like I can think of like outside of him, because I don't think he didn't do Tokyo Gore Police, did he?
No, but Tokyo Gore Police came to mind too.
Oh,
Like where it's
yeah.
just fountains of blood
Yeah,
and
just
crazy imagery. Yeah.
Yeah, because it just kept going. It would be like
For so long. And it's like
it
with
was,
that
turning.
with that fun music and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was so surreal. And it was so fucking funny. It just fit the mood so perfectly,
Yeah.
and I didn't want it to end.
This is from the director who did that Revenge movie, which I liked parts of it, but I was very like in the middle on it. Like it did a lot that I didn't like,
Yeah, me too.
but it felt like all the promise that was in that movie was fully delivered out of this one.
Yeah.
Like similar kind of stylistic, like over the top sensibilities, but like they work so much better with this material than they
Yeah.
did with that other like weaker script.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this one won something for the script, right? Or
Yeah,
the
it won
screenplay.
Best Screenplay at Cannes, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like after watching it, like I loved it, but it does not seem like a Best Screenplay at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah, it
winner.
doesn't.
Yeah,
like
no.
I have to read it now. Like I have to know.
I was expecting this to pay off, and it never did. But there was that yellow truck that was in the background of like so many scenes that had a big black star on the door.
Oh God, I don't know if I remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was there. The first time I noticed it was when Margaret Qualley took over for the first time, and she's going to get that like bathing suit that's in the window.
Right.
She walks past, and then she like goes back to the window and sees the bathing suit thing.
Oh,
In the background,
okay.
parked on the curb, there's this like bright yellow, like Jeep-looking vehicle. I don't know vehicles. But there's this bright yellow vehicle with a black
Jeep.
star on the door,
Mm.
and then it keeps being in the background later on. Like
Right.
when the guy on the motorcycle is like yelling at her, get out of the way, and revving away. It's parked on her street, right outside her apartment.
Right.
It's like all over the place. And I was expecting it to like pay off at some point. I guess it's just to show that like she's being watched.
Do you remember that shot of her near the end, where it's also like that very bright white lighting in her shower, but there's like no doors or anything? It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
really, that was
They
so
did that
cool.
twice. So
Did
earlier
twice?
on, earlier on, it was like more subtle the first time, because that
Right.
second time they like zoomed up and you could see like the walls were growing.
Oh, right.
But they did it earlier where she was in the shower and it was the four walls and there was no door.
Ah.
So they
okay.
kind of like, they did like a half measure and then the full measure.
The substance itself and what kind of backstory it could have reminded me of Divinity. Like
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
You could probably set that up because I don't think that's probably a movie that a lot of people haven't seen.
There's this movie that came out late last year, and I think it just came out on Shudder. It's also surrounding this drug substance deal, with the idea of preserving, just, I guess, your youth, really,
Yeah.
just like this one. But this one felt like it was more, like Divinity felt more like it was commenting on masculinity, even though there was like a huge part that was commenting on like women and femininity and all that stuff, especially with how they treat reproductive stuff in it.
Right, and there's
Yeah.
like aliens were all women in Divinity.
Yeah,
right? So there's that
yeah.
going on. But yeah, it does kind of feel like Divinity's like hyper masculine because
It
they're all
is.
like beefy,
They're buff
like,
as hell.
they all look like
Yeah.
the Hulk or whatever. So
Yeah.
they make a good like companion pieces, like a masculine and feminine
Yeah,
take
you
on
could
the
do a
similar
double
like
feature.
yeah
Yeah,
they would
'cause
go well
this-
together.
Yeah, you can just say this is Divinity, but for women.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that we're in spoilers, I wanted to say that it was so great to circle back around to the Hollywood star at the end and make that like the closing image.
Yeah,
Perfect way to bookend the movie with the beginning and end there.
it was.
So great.
I love when things come full circle like
Yeah.
that, and then they just made her into, because it was also showing the indifference in the beginning, but they also show how indifferent they were at the end
Yeah.
too. Where
Even
she
going
just-
through all of that
Yeah.
into such extremes for the youth, and then still no one gives a shit.
No one gave a singular
Still
shit.
gonna get mopped up off the sidewalk. Yeah.
She
it's great.
turned into a starfish.
Yeah, I think it was. I think a jellyfish because they
Oh.
mentioned in her first workout thing, she was like, "You don't want to look like a jellyfish on the beach or whatever." I think that was a
Oh
little
my
foreshadowing.
god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, she was like, "You don't want to look like a fat jellyfish, do you?" In her very first workout.
And then that's what she became. You become what you hate.
Yeah,
You become the very thing that you don't want. Because we keep getting the same shit all the time. And it's like, I want to keep being surprised.
yeah.
Like, that's all I want.
This movie, it's got surprises.
It does.
It's fresh. It's bold. Yeah, it's a good time. Big recommendation. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
That's the end of the video.
Thank you.